Welcome to the Real Retirees of New Jersey, powered by Liberty Financial Group and Artemis Wealth Advisors. Randy and Peggy Fisher want to help you retire once and retire right. Get more information at therealretireesofnewjersey.com. They never throw the first punch, but they're always a knockout.
I would just like to start this episode of the podcast by saying that, Randy, you teased that this was going to be a very spicy topic, one that was going to grab a lot of attention. So here we go. It's the Real Retirees of New Jersey. I'm Jeff Miles.
And we're
with
off.
Randy Fisher, founder of Artemis Wealth Advisors. Peggy Fisher is the founder of Liberty Financial Group. You find them online, libertyfingroupllc.com, retirewithartemis.com. Let's jump right into it. Now, this has to do with a story about a married couple. I love the headline on this. And as we know, headlines is all people read these days. I wake up with anxiety. My husband leaves retirement and investing plans to me. How do I hire the right advisor? Now, Randy, before you take off and jump into this, because I can see you chomping at the bit over there, I'm going to read you this article, right? This was written into Market Watch. Alessandra Melito is the one that published this. It says, Dear Market Watch, I'm 48. I've been married to my wonderful husband, 49, for almost 20 years. We have one son, 18, who lives at home. Why, I have no idea. That wasn't actually written into this. I'm just curious. We have 3 other adult children who now live on their own. My husband has 2 sons, 27 and 25. I have a 29-year-old son from a previous marriage. She says, my husband and I are very open with each other about our finances. However, the responsibility to manage our finances is always completely rested on my shoulders. My husband is not fully engaged with our investments, and I don't want to make a mistake with our investment portfolio. We started with very little, but I researched investment options. We've worked hard. We have grown our business. Now we've decided that I will retire. She's going to retire. She says she's 48. She's going to retire. And my husband will work 8 months a year for another 5 years to let our investments grow. She says, I wake up with anxiety, wondering if I've made a mistake retiring. Problem is that financial planners want to manage our $2 million portfolio for a fee, and we're scared that our retirement savings could be destroyed if we hire the wrong advisor. We have not received the best advice in the past. So, Peggy, Randy, what say you?
I say picking your advisor should be like dating, right? You could go on a date with them, which would for us would be come to one of our workshops. You could come see us, see if you like us, see what we're saying, just as if you went on a date. I'd go to a restaurant, to have a little conversation with a gentleman. Not now, Randy, I'm saying, back in the day. See what he looks like. Do I like him? Do I like what he's saying, right? Make it like a date. You should, when you're looking for a financial advisor, see if this is people who, are looking in your best interest. Is this, right. Do I like them? Do I like their personality? Do I like what they're saying? Right, Rand?
Yeah, well, this is a pretty interesting article, but 48 and 49 years old and they're retiring with $2 million already.
Right, exactly.
I don't know what sacrifices they've made, what bank they've robbed, or how much money they put away for themselves, but they've done damn good, right? Yeah. So let's be correct. Kudos and my hat's off to you all.
Right.
You have 3 children out of the house and 1 still playing around, 75%. Dispensary mix there. That's awesome. The 18-year-old, well, listen, he's going to be on your payroll for a little bit more. And I think with $2 million, you can teach him what to do because you've done the right thing.
Yeah.
Now, if they've gotten a $2 million nest egg and they haven't had a financial advisor yet, and again,
and they're 48.
I don't want to give up business here, but what are you looking for one right now for? Because again, I've mentioned this a number of times. People aren't afraid of making a decision. They're afraid of making the wrong decision. And what does she say in this article? She's afraid of making the wrong decision.
She says, I wake up with anxiety, wondering if she made a mistake.
Right.
Right.
But Randy, we were just talking about this last night at one of our workshops, and it was funny because what he was saying is if you were looking for an advisor, like to all of the people who do it yourself out there, right? You're not experts in this. Like when I go to a dentist, I'm not going to somebody who doesn't do dental work. I'm going to someone who's a true dentist, right?
Sure.
Randy was saying last night in our workshop to them, you can look to somebody who can be non-emotional. You're emotional when you're doing your finances, right? We are non-emotional because we're trying to help you with your finances.
Hold on just a minute. You just said you're non-emotional.
In finances, in someone else's finances.
I don't know if we're emotionally stable, but we're emotional.
With someone else's finances that are
right. Yes. Okay.
That's pretty solid right there. I like that.
Right.
Did you like that?
The only reason I ask is because as I've gotten to know the two of you, I mean, I feel, a lot of emotion when I speak to the two of you. So, and listen, I'm an emotional guy myself.
You got to be emotional about what you do, right?
Yeah, I enjoy it.
You'll enjoy the next statement that comes out of my mouth then. So, as Peggy said, if you need your teeth pulled, you could probably pull your own teeth, and it's not going to be fun. It's not going to be painless, but you could probably get it done. Now, what you do with the gap that's in there is a different story once it's done,
and the infection that you just caused yourself, right?
Sure.
Exactly. So, I mean, if you want to eat soup for the rest of your life and you want to gum everything to death, go ahead.
Then do your own teeth.
You probably want to go to a dentist to get it done. Same thing with a proctologist. I'm not sticking a garden hose up my ass.
Randy, this is the second time you brought up a proctologist.
Exactly. So
what's your obsession, Rand?
Yeah.
It's just you have to give some radical understanding of what it is. So, I mean, think about this. This lady and this guy has basically, or she has, because he has no part in it. She's basically acquired a $2 million worth of assets over a short period of time. What is it? 20 years of their life. So between 28 and 48, she's accumulated $2 million. That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, I want to actually call this person who's actually, written this article here. But with that said, there are a lot of people that don't have that assets, but they have the same anxiety and they have the same problem. But Peggy did bring up a good point. You need to find an advisor, or the reason why in which you relinquish your control, for the most part, lack of a better word, control over your assets day to day to a financial advisor or a professional is because they should be taking a non-emotional, mathematical, methodical approach to your investing.
Exactly.
Right? And again, I'll go a little bit back to the medical field here. It's one of the reasons why medical practitioners cannot perform surgery on a family member. Why? Because it has
the emotion
to do with
gets involved.
The emotion.
Exactly.
Yeah, right? So, I love the fact, and we come across people like this all the time, where we have a husband and a wife come in the door and they're like, hey, I've been managing my portfolio. Well, I haven't really been managing it, but my son or daughter has been managing it. Well, that's great. Ooh. So if your son and daughter make the biggest mistake of your life, I would assume you're moving into their house.
Right.
Because that's what you need to do. Because if they're going to make the decisions on your money and they make the mistake, then guess what? Fall on the sword, because you should be moving into their bedroom and they should be moving into the guest bedroom, because if they're managing your money and they made the mistake, that's their problem, right? You don't want to ever put pressure like that on people. And I always suggest to everybody that actually has that conversation of, your kids may be the smartest people in the world or the smartest people that you think they are, and they do a great job. And obviously they have your best interest in mind. But again, if you need your teeth cleaned, or you need them taken out of your head, or you need to go to the doctor, your kid's not going to do it for you. There should be no difference with finances, right?
Well, and with finances too, Randy, we earn certain certifications for things, right? Just like a doctor would have a certain certification of what they would need.
Sure.
We have certain education. Like most of the time when we talk to people who say, oh, my son or daughter, helps us. Okay, well, are they in the finance world? No, they were doing a lot of research online. We hear that all the time.
They drive a school bus and they have a lot of time.
They do a lot of research online. I hope that, your nest egg and their research will keep you guys where you need to be. You know what I mean? I mean, that's like a big thing. They do research online. Well, we need certifications in our world, just as anybody else. A doctor would need a certification, a financial advisor needs a certification, because they have expertise on something, right? They're not just researching a day-to-day thing and saying, okay, I'm looking out for mom and dad's, nest egg on this.
One of the buzzwords that are out there, over the last number of years and even months is fiduciary, right? Fiduciary this, fiduciary that. I want to really bring up a big point for fiduciaries. Number one is, if you're in any field, you should, number one, be doing the best thing for that person, no matter what field you're in, right?
Right.
I don't care if it's picking up garbage, plunging a toilet, putting tires on a car, financial services, accounting, doctoring, whatever it is. If you're in the service industry, then you should be servicing that client as the paramount position and the number one best interest in mind, no matter
Correct.
what.
That's right.
Unfortunately, in the world we live in, we have to have a fiduciary responsibility now because of the corruption and the greed in which is out there, right? I'm going to take this one step further, and people really don't understand this until I actually say it. There are two definitions of fiduciary. There's a fiduciary based off of the Securities and Exchange Commission, which essentially says, if I work for a private company versus a publicly traded company, my fiduciary responsibilities are 100% totally different.
Right.
My fiduciary responsibility, if I work for a publicly traded company, is to the shareholder first, not the client. Right. So again, I'm not here to throw any companies under the business, but if I and have done this before, if you've worked for a Merrill Lynch, a Bank of America, Prudential, whoever it is, your shareholder is the primary responsibility. So if the company makes more money selling widget A versus widget B, but widget B is better for the client, but widget A is better for the company, what's the best interest to the company as a fiduciary? Not what's in the best interest for the client, right?
Right.
And I found that was a huge, one of the reasons why we're independent, that was a huge, huge conflict of interest for me. And a lot of other people that I know.
And when we say independent, what we mean by independent is we are not just selling, let's say we worked for Prudential, I would be selling all Prudential products. As being independent financial advisors, we sell plethora of best interest products for our clients, not just one certain product.
Go find the best particular product for it if it's in the arsenal, right?
Exactly.
Now, again, best interest doesn't mean cheapest. Best interest doesn't mean best result. Best interest means what is in the best interest for the client at the moment, and compare a few, right?
Right.
Not just I have one option, or I'm going to give you 65 options and we're always going to try to pick the best one. Well, what's the best? What is the hierarchy of decision making to that? So again, when we took a look at, we give what we like to describe as we give Wall Street advice to Main Street people, but we do it because we're a private company and we have a fiduciary responsibility, and we have basically three things that we have to do at all times. Number one, it's in the client's best interest. It's in the client's best interest, and it's in the client's best interest. And if it's in the client's best interest in three different scenarios that we look at, it's in the client's best interest.
Right, exactly.
Because that's what we're doing. And we've actually given up many, many times compensation, time, and a lot of other things because it was the right thing for the client. And we'll continue to do that throughout the remainder of our career, which will probably still be for a very long time because I got a 16-year-old at home. But or I move to another country, listen to that podcast, ladies and gentlemen, just hit the rewind button. But the fact of the matter is, you need to find out that person, that professional, that financial advisor, that team member that you want on your team that you literally know at 3 o'clock in the morning. I know it's the stupidest thing in the world to say, but at 3 o'clock in the morning, you wake up from a bad dream and you hit your cell phone and you can dial their number and they can say, hey, listen, let me talk you off the ledge. Everything is going to be okay. Or this is the reason why we did this. Or here's your answer. Then that's the person you need to go with. Right. Not somebody that you're going to get a voicemail or your secretary is going to call back or his assistant or her assistant's going to call you back, or you don't get in touch with them. Or here's the better one. You decide, or the client decides, to actually make a decision which doesn't agree with the advisor. Countless times we have conversations with people that actually become clients that they say, I can no longer work with that person because I felt that they belittled me or they made me feel stupid because they talked down to me because I didn't agree with them. Yeah. Now, listen, there's a lot of times where people don't agree with us and we give them both sides of the conversation, but ultimately it's the client who makes the final decision, right? Now, yes, there are times where we basically give them, hey, I don't really know if I would go that way, but the sheer fact is this, it's their money, right? Yeah. Or it's their decision. If that's what it is, it's what it is. It's kind of like the driver, right? When you say, hey, listen, I'm sitting in traffic here. I can get off at this exit and we can kind of go a detour, or we can kind of sit here. What do you want to do? Well, it's not the driver making the decision. It's the person who's in the car with you that says, hey, okay, get off. You can't yell at the guy if you said get off and next thing you know, it's another half hour wait. It's the same concept. You know, you can only lead a horse to water and you can give them such good advice. If they follow it, great. If they don't follow it, that's a different story, which leads me to one final topic before I allow Peggy to actually say something.
Thanks, Randy.
In this episode.
Yeah.
Is this. Just because you agree with someone doesn't mean you should do business with them. Because if you just want a yes man or a yes woman, you may not get the results that you're looking for. You just may get a yes person.
Yeah.
So actually having somebody that can, in the lack of better words, because I can't think of it off the top of my head right now, but conflict with some of the information in which you have, let them become a sounding board, but basically play devil advocate to the scenario. We always like to look at both sides of the table. So yes, it could go this way, but it can also go this way as well. Now, if it's a good scenario, we can always live with good. If it doesn't go well, can we live with bad? That's the scenario you actually have to continually talk with a financial advisor. Just the same as if a doctor, right? If the surgery went great, wonderful. But if it doesn't go so well, what's going to happen?
Get some oxygen there, Randy.
Yeah, Randy.
All right, Peggy, you can take over for the next.
Thanks so much, and thank you. So in reference to this though, about finding financial advisors, another thing that a lot of people talk about and what we hear all the time is, how are you paid? Right?
Oh yeah. Yep.
That's
Fees,
a big one.
whatever.
So are you paid through the insurance company? Are you paid through My Money? Are you paid through fees? How are you paid? We hear that all the time, Randy. And what do we always say back to them? Listen, if the fees that you're paying, to us aren't paying for your needs, then you should fire us, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the fees that you're paying should suffice for all of your income that we're taking over for you, and all the advice that we're giving should, be helpful for that fee, right?
We're on your payroll. Right?
Yeah.
If you pay a lawyer, you pay a doctor, you pay somebody, you pay for a specific service, and you pay for your expectation. If they don't meet your expectation or they're not meeting your need, then guess what? Get a new one.
And then what we always say is, when you're on our payroll, if we're the payroll as it goes in Liberty Financial Group and Artemis Wealth Advisors, it's just not, oh, you're managing our money, or, oh, you've done an insurance product for us, and then we no longer talk to you. You can call us about anything financial you want to at any time, and I'm not charging you an hourly rate.
Right.
Here at our company,
That's our retainer.
That's right. Yeah. That's our retainer. Here, you can call us about anything you want, as Randy said too, any time of the day. If we're on vacation and our phone rings, guess what? Well, we're talking to you. If it's 11 o'clock at night, I'm not hitting the snooze button or not answering you. We're going to answer the phone. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I joke that we're Wall Street on Main Street, but it is true. I mean, we want to have that more intimate conversation like a boutique firm. Right. But we're extremely professional at what we do and what we've done, and our experience shows that. And as Peggy mentioned, I mean, we have conversations with people from, should I refinance this credit card to a no load card for the next couple of months and roll over this balance? Should I take a loan out to finance my kid's education, or should I pay it out of my own pocket?
Car insurance.
Over this past week.
Insurance. Yeah.
And if this person's listening, he knows exactly who he is. He must have called me 6 dozen times about potentially buying a shore house on LBI. Should he, shouldn't he? Should he, shouldn't he? Should he, shouldn't he? And he's got more money than he knows what to do with, but it's one of those conversations. Now, I hope he does, because I'd like to go down there and spend some time in there. But if he doesn't, no problem. But it's, again, I talked about being devil advocate. It's, we talked about the positives, but I brought up a whole bunch of little things that he even said before he hung up the phone. He's like, man, I didn't talk about that. I didn't even think about that. I got to go talk to my wife about that.
Yeah.
She didn't mention that. So, and again, we're not the sharpest tool in the shed or the knife in the drawer. All it is we based off of our conversations, and what we can basically describe and offer to people is our experiences as well as our professionalism. We like to treat people as we would be treated. If I walk into a car dealership or ice cream store or wherever it is, just treat me with respect, and we try to do the same for others. As you can imagine, we try to actually not use jargon. So even Peggy mentioned our workshops, most people that leave our workshop, most people, and I have to say this most, and I'm not patting myself or Peggy's back for this, but they say this is a workshop that they've never been to before. And you can tell that some of these people are professional eaters. So all they do is they actually, return the postcard or, put their reservation down, which is fine. Hey, you're looking for information, and that's what it's offered for. But they walk out with, I've never heard it said that way. And I've gone to 6, 8, 10 of these things. And you said the same thing, but I understand what you're talking about now because you didn't talk over my head and I felt
You weren't trying
comfortable
to
enough
sell
at
me
the
something.
end
Yeah,
that you weren't selling me something, and I came to you and asked a question where I normally run out of these things.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that actually makes us feel good, because what we know is, even if someone doesn't elect to do business with us, if they've gotten something from the time we've spent with them, then we've invested in their future to some way and we've impacted them.
Right.
And if we're able to do that, maybe somewhere down the line, they either have a conversation with somebody that is in need and they come our way, or maybe into the future, they would come our way. But better yet, if they can use some of the information in which they've learned during that hour and a half, or whatever it is, and got a nice meal, they can take that home and they can apply that to the situation. That's the same thing with fiduciary advice, right? Best interest in mind. Give people what they're looking for, enrich them with some information and education, and let them do the decision making.
Absolutely.
When it comes to people in your situations, and this would be, a perfect situation, you may gain a new perspective in certain parts of the relationship with your spouse. If you're this woman, if she decided to bring her husband along, he may all of a sudden, after this whole, interaction with the two of you or with whoever it may be, decide, you know what, hang on, this stuff's kind of interesting. I may want to kind of, you put more effort into this. And I would imagine that takes away some of the anxiety. I have to feel like some of her anxiety in this whole situation has to do with the fact that she feels the burden that if anything wrong happens, it's all on her.
Right.
Like it is
Exactly.
She's
all
on the
my
island.
fault.
Yes, right.
Right.
And then what do I do? And my husband is just going to blame me for everything. Whereas, and I'm not a marriage counselor. I'm also not a financial advisor. I'm just this guy hosting the show with you guys. But it's kind of one of those situations where it's like, let someone else take the anxiety from you.
Exactly.
That's the whole idea. That way, when you take your husband in and y'all agree that Peggy and Randy are going to be the ones that are handling this for you, I mean, for lack of a better term, they're the ones that get to handle that responsibility so that you don't have to wake up with that anxiety.
Jeff, nobody on 95.5 WPLJ ever called in and said, hey, can I talk to you about my $2 million portfolio?
I had plenty of people that would call in and ask how they could become famous.
You just transferred them to Scott and Todd. You just hey, Scott, there's somebody on the phone for you.
I'll let you guys be the next on the phone scam about how, and what really happened is she went and had lunch with her girlfriend who told her that just divorce him and run off with all that money.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Which
Crazy.
might not be sound advice for your retirement portfolio. I'm just saying.
You know what I picked up when I read the article? It was the age 48 and 49, right? And you mentioned in this particular article, it says that she was primarily responsible for everything that was going on, and he was disconnected from the conversations and whatever. Now, like you just mentioned, you hinted at, he could literally be disconnected because he doesn't want to make a decision, because then he doesn't want to get blamed, right? Maybe.
Yeah.
But if you looked at this and we fast forward, or actually I should say we rewind, if you add 20 or 30 years on their age, and this was an article written by a man and a woman who are 78 and 79, I'm going to bet my bottom dollar that the spouse, who's the male, was taking care of all the finances from an investment standpoint.
Yep.
And unfortunately, the woman was basically in the dark.
Yeah.
And most of the people who come to us that are widows, they come to us with, shopping bags full of stuff. And they say, my husband died. I was told by my friend who you helped them, you're going to be able to help me. I know nothing about what my husband has, what he did. I just know that there was money there, and I paid the bills on a month-to-month basis, and I ran the household, but I know nothing else.
Yeah. Help us,
right?
please.
Help.
Yep.
This is a transitional generational flip. If you look at the article,
Yes, it
right?
is.
Yeah, you're
The
right.
guy's
You're
sitting in
absolutely
the
right.
background. Hey, I don't do this.
Right.
My wife does this now, right?
Yeah.
But this isn't something new, Randy. I would think what most of our clients that actually come into our place of business here, it's always one who has the big pocket or is running the show, and the other one will sit there and say, "Oh, is that what we? Yeah, that's what we have. Okay."
But during our but during our relationship building, as you mentioned, we try to engage both sides at least to have some knowledge of what they
100%.
have.
Yeah.
Because of the decision-making processes, right?
Yes.
Now, when you have a meeting with somebody or some couple, there's always something that goes on, but when they leave, there's a different dynamic, right? So it's a matter of, hey, did you hear what they said? Or, we have someone that literally comes in here with their spouse. She basically sits here and reads a magazine while he's in there and he's going over everything.
That's a true story. Yeah.
And I'm
looks
not kidding
around, up, down, left, right. It's like, are we done yet?
I mean, we have TVs in both rooms. And the last time I was here, I said, hey, you want the channel changer for outside? You can just go put something on. She's like, no, listen. Well, but each time she comes in, she does become a little bit more engaged, right? And that's good. And that's what we're looking for because, I mean, listen, you don't have to be the money manager and you don't have to memorize everything you have, but at least have a little bit of an understanding of what you do have and a little bit of an interest, right? Because if you know what hits the fan, you at least want to know what you got, how it's going to happen.
When I first read this article, the very first thing that I took away from this was that this particular situation, and again, to your point, they're 48, 49, is kind of opposite from what the traditional married couple, when they're looking at their retirement, might look like. And how many relationships have kind of been in that flip-flop situation where this almost seems normal to maybe somebody from previous generations where it was kind of like, usually the man who kind of held all this stuff and handed it over to that financial advisor. And I don't know what their anxiety level was when it came to those kinds of decisions, what they were thinking through that whole process. So it's an interesting, article in the sense that there's a lot of different factors here that really kind of play into, and get ready for it, the emotional side of how they move forward with what their decision is going to be in finding that financial advisor that's really going to help them get the most out of what they've got here. I mean, $2 million, 48 years old, 49 years old. I'll take some of that. Thank you.
Yeah.
The other thing that stuck out in the article to me was where it basically says about what they would be paying a financial advisor for, right? Yeah. And one of the things I like to bring up to people is, wherever you go, you pay somebody for a service.
Yeah.
Nope. I don't know many people in this world at this moment that do anything for free other than maybe family helps you. And even that's not free, right?
Exactly.
Right.
But for the most part, people are accustomed to paying for a service.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And if you think about this, you don't mind going to a restaurant and paying for a really good meal, even though it costs you some money, or buying a bottle of wine or going on a vacation or doing something. But what you don't want is you don't want to regret it. Right. So if you go to a restaurant and you spend $300 for a meal for two people and you walk out of there saying that was the worst thing I ever ate in my life. That was the worst service. I'll never go back. You kind of regret the whole scenario. Right. So with that said, from a financial services standpoint, or even a financial advisor standpoint, what does loss cost you if you didn't have a financial advisor?
I'll tell you what
would the remorse be in this relationship if there was a mistake made and they elected not to hire a financial advisor, and whatever happened was a big negative consequence?
So think about this from a
regrettable scenario.
If you think about it, and I'm just throwing this out there for anybody that's listening right now, and you're thinking to yourself about, fees when it comes to someone who is helping to grow your money, right? I want you to just think about anything that you've purchased recently that the salesperson who you purchased it from gets a commission on. And then I want you to think about whether or not that particular item that you paid for increases or decreases in value. Let's say a car. Look, the salesperson that sold you that car is going to get a commission on it. And 5-10 years from now, good chance that thing's not going to be worth what it was when you paid for it and the commission that you paid that salesperson to sell it to you for.
Sure.
On the flip side, you look at real estate, for example. When you're looking at something, when it comes to real estate and you're looking for the best possible situation that you can get yourself into, you're trying to find that real estate agent that's going to get you the best possible house, knowing that it's also going to hopefully increase in value down the road. And real estate agents, they also get a commission on top of that. Mm-hmm. And so to your point, Randy, of there's nothing that anybody purchases that doesn't come along with something where you're paying for the service. I consider that the money that you've made, $2 million in this situation, is worth the investment of the people that you're asking to do the work with this money that you're asking them to do with it.
And Randy's famous line is always what, Rand? You get what you pay for, right?
Yeah, you get what you pay for.
You
but
get
the
what you
fact
pay
is,
for.
a fee in the absence of value is a fee, right?
Yes.
If
Yes.
you get something which is valuable, and I always say this, I mean, the bottom line is if we can't make you what our fee is,
then you can fire us.
And we shouldn't be in this industry.
Absolutely.
Right,
Randy
right.
says that
Fact
to
of the
every client
matter,
who comes
bar
in.
none.
Yes.
Period. The end.
Right.
If we can't pay for ourselves, then you don't need us. In
Right.
fact, one of the things I talk about all the time is the difference between active management and passive management.
Yeah.
Passive management is essentially you buy something, you hold it forever, and whatever happens, happens. You don't need an advisor for passive management.
Right.
Nope.
I mean, let's be honest. Indexing, John Bogle from Vanguard made this as famous can be. And the results are there's volumes of information that essentially say if you are a buy, hold long term, you don't need anybody to do anything. Buy the market, hold the market, and hope that the day that you need it, it's going to be worth more than it is today.
Yeah.
Period. The end. That's not active management. That's passive management. There's nothing wrong with passive management if you have time on your side.
Right.
Or if you're looking for something that you want more results in a shorter term and you feel that tactical management, active management is the way to go,
Sure.
then you're paying. Now, you could essentially, and I've seen this before in all of our research, there's a lot of people that have passive portfolios at major brokerage houses that are paying the same amount that they're paying us for active management.
Right.
Right.
So my question is, and I said this the other day, just at I kind
Workshop.
of made a little light of it.
Yeah, you did.
I said, with no disrespect to Hyundai, would you rather drive a Hyundai or a Maserati if they were both the same price?
I mean, I think most
listen,
people
unless you
would
love
answer
Hyundai,
that
great,
as-
but
yeah, exactly.
right?
You know,
I mean, if you're going to get the same price, it's going to cost the same essentially.
Right.
Then wouldn't you want maybe a far more superior product or a far more
Absolutely.
superior service?
Yep.
Right?
absolutely.
Would you like to stay at the Holiday Inn or the Ritz-Carlton if they were the same per night?
I'm going to say at the
mean,
Ritz.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's really what it comes down to. If you're going to get that type of service from a financial service firm and it's going to cost you the same as a no frills place, and I'm not saying that these places are no frills, but what I'm talking about is you go in, you get wined and dined for the first time. They tell you how good their company is and they've been around forever and ever and they're going to do all this work for you. Your portfolio's never changed. Half the time you don't get a call back. And you have to call them when you know what's hitting the fan out there.
And you're
then they
getting a
have to
different
try to talk
person
you
every
off the
time you
ledge.
call. And you get a different person every time you
Right.
call.
Right.
Right.
I mean, our clients, they get a 3-month phone call mandatory every single solitary month, or even sooner, especially when you know what's hitting the fan.
Oh yeah.
We call them all the time about talking about the dips, right? So if you do, someone just, again, I'll give you another quick story here, ladies and gentlemen. So last night, a guy came up to us at the end of the workshop and he says, hey, listen, I listened to you about whole buying this dip thing. That's wonderful. But what happens if I don't have the money in my portfolio to buy the dip? I said, well, you don't have the money in your portfolio to buy any of the dips because you're managing your account and you don't know how to actively manage your account.
Sure.
If you have a professional who's actively managing your account, then you're going to have the dry powder available for when the dip happens to buy it. And he looked at me and he said, that's why I need a professional. And I said, that's why you need a professional.
Right.
So in those instances, it's very, again, this guy's managed his portfolio his whole life. Now, maybe he will and maybe he won't make the change, but at least the light bulb went on to understanding why when he tries to buy the dip, he can't. But when a professional can buy the dip, they can because they have that allocated amount within the portfolio.
Right.
And then he even said, well, how do you do that? I said, well, the fact of the matter is you have to sell something off in order to create the gain or to capitalize on the upside.
Right.
That actually baffled them as well. Why? Because most people are enamored and mind boggled by the fact that Wall Street's told them forever, buy and hold, and they ride a roller coaster up and they ride it back down. And when they fall into the trough, what does the broker say if they actually call them? You can't sell now. It's low. You can't move. You're locked in. You got to wait for it to come back. Got to hold it, right?
Yep.
So if you want to continually get those same little verbiages and adages from the brokers in which you're working with, stay where you are. And stay in a passive investment, pay them oodles of money a year to do nothing, and they'll basically just try to walk you off the ledge once in a while. But if you want active management, go seek it from people who are actually doing it correctly, and you'll get better results.
Okay. I love it. Everything you just said. Listen, anybody who's listening right now, I would say this. When it comes to what is the most important decision of your life, after you've been married and after you've had your kids, right? Because those are usually the first two big important decisions you're going to make. This is the next one in line. And you need to be thinking about these things with the same weight that you would have either of those other previous decisions that you made in your life. Find the right people to help you do those things. So reach out to Randy and Peggy. They can get you set up right now with a consultation. They can talk to you about everything that's going on with your portfolio right now. You can go to the website at libertyfingroupllc.com. Also, retirewithartemis.com. Make sure that you are subscribed to the podcast so you can get more of this type of information, more of this type of content so that you know what you're doing with your retirement portfolio. And make sure you have the notifications turned on so that you can get, that little bell that tells you, hey, there's something new coming your way. So anyway, this is the Real Retirees of New Jersey. I'm Jeff Miles, along with Randy Fisher and Peggy Fisher. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jeff.
This has been very enlightening, and all from a woman who's like, I got $2 million. My husband doesn't do anything. What do I do? That's it. Yeah, good stuff. Thank you guys for listening, and we will talk to you next time.
We are an independent financial services firm helping individuals create retirement strategies using a variety of financial and insurance products to custom suit their needs and objectives. Investment advisor services offered through Artemis Wealth Advisors, a registered investment advisor. Exposure to ideas and financial vehicles discussed should not be considered investment advice or recommendation to buy or sell any financial vehicle. Past performance is not a guarantee of future results. Investments can fluctuate and when redeemed may be worth more or less than when originally invested. Artemis Wealth Advisors is not affiliated with nor endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any other government agency and does not provide legal or tax advice. Please consult with your attorney, accountant, and or tax advisor for advice concerning your particular circumstances. Annuity guarantees rely solely on the financial strength and claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company. By contacting us, you may be provided with information about insurance and annuity products offered through Randolph A. Fisher, insurance license number 9616074, and Liberty Financial Group, LLC, and Peggy Fisher, national license number 189-42003 and 570-5833.